Welcome to this opening panel of the Clean and Healthy Planet session. It will be followed by 5 thematic panels on the biodiversity, bioeconomy, and on bioeconomy, biodiversity-rich farming systems, the global clean energy race, future transport in Europe, and systemic approaches to sustainability transitions and the circular economy. Each of the panels will tackle the challenge that our guests present here will put forward. Now, we have 2 outstanding guests joining me today. Maroš Šefčovič, the European Commission Vice President for Interinstitutional Relationships and Foresight, and Ville Niinisto, Member of the European Parliament from the Greens EFA Group and Coordinator in the Committee on ITRE, Industry, Research and Energy, and a member of the Committee on the Environment. So, Vice President Šefčovič, let me start with you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. I really would like to welcome you to the plenary of the Clean and Healthy Planet for All sessions at this year's European Research and Innovation Days. As I'm informed, there is a lot of exciting research going on in this field supported by European funding, and the panels taking place today will provide insight on topics like bioeconomy, the global clean energy race, and future transport in Europe. But before we get down to that, I would like to say a few words about the climate transition and what we are doing to become carbon neutral by the middle of century. Under the European Green Deal, the EU will be transformed into a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy with zero net greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 and with economic growth decoupled from big vehicles. The European battery ecosystem is growing at an unprecedented rate thanks to the work of the European Battery Alliance, which I launched in 2017. By 2025, Europe will be the second largest producer of batteries in the world, with over 400 gigawatt hours of manufacturing capacity, representing around 20% of global battery production. And what is, I think, important to see behind these 400 gigawatt hours, that these are the batteries for 6 to 8 million electric vehicles. Last year, we became also #1 in the sales of electric vehicles in Europe. We sold them more than 1 million, and this is how we become a world leader in e-mobility. This progress has been achieved by bringing together entire battery value chain in the alliance, including close to 700 industrial actors and the close cooperation with the EU institution, because this is how we want to make sure that we are well on track to attain strategic autonomy in what is a key industrial sector. The EBA is now a key component of the European Green Deal, but to get this far has required a significant injection of funding across the whole battery value chain. For example, the Batteries Partnership launched yesterday will see 925 million euros in funding from Research Europe invested across the battery value chain to be matched by private contributions. Another example is in hydrogen technologies, which will also be pivotal in decarbonization, including in energy storage. This is an area where the EU can become a real world leader. To this end, the EU has provided 1 billion euros in funding to the Clean Hydrogen Partnership, another joint undertaking with the industry. Additionally, we are supporting the Clean Hydrogen Alliance, linking public authorities, research organizations, industry, and civil society. However, it remains the key that we make the best use of R&I by shortening the path from lab to market, and for this we need non-technological innovation alongside scientific discoveries and new technologies. That means we need new markets and business models, new ways to support startups, financially and otherwise, and solutions to have social legitimacy and social acceptance. The Climate Pact, an integral part of the European Green Deal, is already generating such support. And the Conference on Future of Europe goes a step further, enabling citizens to be part of creating and developing concrete policy proposals. These are the tools we will need to make full use of if we are to keep the people of Europe on board, imperative if we are to make a success of the climate transition. As a person in charge of strategic foresight in the Commission, I spent a lot of time thinking about the future and what it might look like. However, it turns out it is clear to me that a vibrant and thriving research and innovation community is absolutely essential to spearhead our approach to the green and digital transition, to usher in the area of the climate neutrality. I just came to talk to you from a very interesting and very important session we had with Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez. I very much welcome his willingness to share with us the foresight report on how to transform Spain with the new foresight strategic planning for España 2050. And I'm sure that if you look through the plans, you will see a lot of the topics you are going to discuss today reflected in that plan. And I hope that some of the topics which are now being discussed by the scientific communities and experts, we can bring out more to the more public debates which will be taking place under the umbrella of the Conference on Future of the European Union. Because people want to discuss what the future would look like. People would like to discuss what the future jobs would look like, how will be the life of the future generations, and how they can personally contribute to make Europe greener, more resilient, and more digital. And therefore, I really would like to thank you for your kind invitation. Wish you a lot of great ideas, excellent conference, and really to do our utmost to use the best use of R&I programs in the European Union. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Vice President, taking time away from your busy schedule meeting European leaders to talk about these important matters. Let us turn now to our second speaker, representative from the European Parliament, Ville Niinisto. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. And obviously, I'm thrilled to be discussing with you the future of our planet, a clean and healthy planet for all. If we think about the challenges that Europe, our scientific community and our companies are facing, it's obvious that we have to change the whole way we consume, how we produce, and how we live in order to live within the planetary boundaries that are set by nature. So the living ecosystems and this planet and its rich, diverse biodiversity, that is the source of all life, and we have to make sure that our economy is in line with that we can't continue borrowing from future generations with the kind of lifestyle that we have. And obviously this challenge is difficult. This is what has to be done in the next decade. A small fraction of the world's nature is nowadays pristine. Humankind has more or less taken control over the vast majority of the planet's area. But we still have a lot of the technologies, a lot of the knowledge, a lot of the research there already in order to change our economy into sustainable for our nature, but also for our climate and therefore also for humanity. A lot of this needs understanding of the social structures, how to make this change sustainable for individuals. A lot of it affects agriculture, a lot of it affects transports, a lot of energy, and digitalization is also obviously there behind. The research program of a European Union, Horizon Europe, is one of the biggest tools to do this transformation in Europe. It's 95 billion euros that just has opened for its first calls for the next 7 years. Will use 35% of its financing for climate earmarking, and from 2026 onwards, 10% for biodiversity. And I find it very interesting for me as a politician who has worked with environmental issues for 2 decades already, that biodiversity is coming to the core of politics as well. If we look at addressing pandemics, we know that we also need to address zoonoses, that means that we have to protect biodiversity in order to avoid risks to humanity caused by viruses that come from animals. So the breakout sessions that you are going to have soon have different interesting aspects of this transformation. On bioeconomy, it's obvious that we just don't have enough of biological resources to replace all fossil-based materials. So that means that there is a twofold solution to this. First, we must assess that what can be replaced by biological, bio-based products. And secondly, we must look at being more resource efficient and using less materials. Secondly, if we look at our agricultural policy, it's not yet science-based. We lose soil, we lose a lot of fertile land by the way we use agriculture. And also we create environmental problems by over-chemicalization, nutrient emissions to waters and so on. How we can move towards more plant-based diets that can reduce food-based emissions, and how we can make agriculture itself a source of carbon sinks, a source of biodiversity, instead of being a source of loss of that. Thirdly, we have a unique opportunity to place European innovation top of the world in clean technologies and green digitalization. We have already a lot of knowledge how to do the energy transformation. The Commissioner already said a lot of this, batteries, hydrogen, but how to make it really green at the core, how to make it systemic and holistic, we'll need a lot of science and innovation in that. Also, fourthly, on transport, there's a lot of interesting development here, but how also the transportation system can be looked through, that all forms of vehicles, all forms of transportation are moved to being more efficient and less emitting, and how we can increase the share of public transportation, for example, and trains in Europe. That is also part of the solution. On circular economy, I applaud that many of the Horizon Europe calls on research already move away from the linear way of producing and consuming to circularity. And obviously in a planet that is limited by its resources, where pristine virgin resources cannot be overconsumed and used as we have done in the past, circular economy in the end is the key. So you have a fine session ahead of you, and I applaud you for taking this chance and solving these issues for all of us.
Thank you very much indeed. And you mentioned future generations. So of course we want to bear in mind that we're putting research and innovation at the service of those future generations in these 5 thematic panels that will break out. And I would of course invite our audience to put their questions for these panels on Slido. You can go to sli.do or slido.com and enter the hashtag RIDaysEU. Those plenary sessions will break out in 15 minutes, those breakout sessions from this plenary. However, before that, I do have the pleasure to present to you the awards ceremony for the Responsible Island Prize that has been pre-recorded with Director General Jean-Éric Paquet and the representatives of the 3 winning islands. The 3 winners have been rewarded for their outstanding achievements in local renewable energy production for electricity, heating, cooling and the transport for engaging their communities. So stay with us.